Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. Asian markets open lower again despite China's central bank's decision to cut lending rates for the fifth time since November. Agitating Patels in Gujarat call for a statewide bandh over demand for OBC status. Curfew clamped in several areas in the state after violence on Tuesday. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi on a two-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir. He will be visiting the LOC in Poonch that's been the target of recent Pakistani fire. Countdown to the launch of India's latest communication satellite, the GSAT-6, to begin today. The satellite's mission life is 9 years. And Lalita Babar will compete in the finals of the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase at the World Championships in Beijing today. Well, our top focus on the bulletin this morning. Asian markets have opened lower again as concerns over China's slowing growth rate continues to haunt investors. Chinese mainland shares have fallen more than 16% since the beginning of the week, sending shockwaves through global markets. Asia's largest index, Japan's Nikkei 225, opened slightly lower, dropping 0.3%. The fall came despite Beijing's latest efforts to boost growth and reassure traders by cutting interest rates. China's central bank cut its main lending rate by 0.25 percentage points to 4.6%. The move came after 2 days of turmoil at the stock markets. This fifth interest rate cut since November takes effect from today. The decision to cut rates had a soothing effect on global markets. The London FTSE 100 jumped 3%, while Germany's DAX gained 5%. Paris CAC rose by 4.1%. Other European markets also closed sharply higher. The only exception being the Wall Street that initially surged but reversed sharply in the final hour of trading. The stock markets were spooked after the shock devaluation of the yuan 2 weeks ago. Investors who were already on the edge on fears of a slowing growth in China pressed the panic button, sending stocks tumbling worldwide.
Aggressive reaction we've seen in the equity markets have arguably forced the Chinese government's hands here. Certainly the People's Bank of China have cut a number of times as far as the interest rate is concerned, and there is a lot of room for manoeuvre for both the interest rate and also the reserve ratio requirements. The Chinese investment arena is a considerably more juvenile one than its Western counterpart. Why we saw Western and European equity markets bounce today, whereas its Chinese counterparts were still in negative territory. There was certainly opportunities with greater value looking in the market was one that emanated in the European and the Western arena, whereas I think fear was maybe still prevalent over in Asia.
Well, after a bloodbath on Monday, the Indian markets recovered following global cues on Tuesday. The rupee, which has been weakening for weeks now, showed some strength against the dollar. But concerns remain as Chinese markets saw another slump. Here's more.
There was some relief at the markets on Tuesday after the Monday mayhem. Strong gains in European markets and buying at lower levels helped Indian markets recover after losing 1,600 points on Monday. After initial losses, Sensex bounced back to gain nearly 300 points and close above the 26,000 mark. Nifty also gained over 70 points in a day that saw volatility in the markets. RBI has said such fluctuations are bound to occur as economies across the globe were interlinked. However, the investors remain wary.
We are on the right path. The reform agenda is progressing in the right direction. Having said that, we have always been telling that we are at this stage where we cannot be disconnected from the global events. We are interconnected, market, and there would be occasional this kind of thing which will happen.
इतना बढ़िया नहीं है जो कि काल से रात को नैस्डैक डाउ ये सब सारा गिरा हुआ था, सीलिंग फ्रीज था नीचे भी, फिर रात को रिकवरी किया. काल का कंपेयर इतना बढ़िया नहीं है, आज भी लग रहा फिर नीचे ही जाने का उम्मीद हो रहा.
A day after hitting a fresh 2-year low, rupee also staged a dramatic recovery, pulling back below the key 66 per dollar mark during the day. However, it ended trading at 66.11. But concern still remains in the stock markets as China saw second consecutive day of fall. On Tuesday, Chinese markets lost over 6%, hitting an 8-month low. China has cut its main interest rate to boost growth in its economy. It is the 5th interest rate cut since November. Other Asian markets closed in the green except Japan's Nikkei, which fell by about 4%. Major European indices gained nearly 2% in early trade. The Wall Street too opened in the green after falling by over 1,000 points during Monday's maniac sell-off. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, we'll keep you up to date with how the markets around the world are doing as and when the day progresses. But for now, of course, let's move on to some other news. The government is keen to push through legislative reforms that have been stuck in Parliament. It is planning to reconvene Parliament to make another attempt to pass the GST bill. It has also reached out to opposition parties to build a consensus on the matter. Despite several attempts, the government failed to move the bill House during the monsoon session, where it seeks a two-thirds majority to pave way for the new tax regime. Here's more.
Continuous disruptions during the monsoon session had stalled key legislations, including the GST bill. Now, about 2 weeks after the session was adjourned sine die, the government is eyeing a special session to seek passage for GST. The initiative comes a day after rupee registered a sharp fall and the markets witnessed one of the biggest single-day loss. The government believes the GST bill will help boost economic growth at the time of global crisis.
The delay in passing of the GST bill will hamper the aspiration of the people of India, and in particular the dreams of the youth who are thirsting for jobs. The registration is estimated to add between 1.5 to 2% to the GDP.
The government has begun talks with the opposition parties. It has urged all parties to cooperate amid concerns over markets and a weakening rupee.
I once again appeal to all political parties to please think in national interest and act in national interest.
Opposition तो सारी हमारे साथ है GST पे. अगर बाकी लोग शांति से चलने दे तो कभी भी हो सकता है. एक ही पार्टी है सिर्फ जो शोर मचा रही है.
However, Congress has put the onus for a smooth session on the ruling party.
We are not at all against the GST bill. This is our bill, whether land acquisition bill or GST bill. Only thing is that, as it is, if they could have proposed, they should not have tinkered it. So it could have been passed. Since we are fighting to pass that bill since 6-7 years.
Kharge has asked for more clarity on the bill. He sought to study the bill to find out which provisions have been accepted or deleted. Congress and left parties had strongly opposed the bill in its present form. With inputs from Shyam Sundar and Vishal Dhaya, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, the chorus for special category status for states has gained momentum after Bihar. Andhra Pradesh is now exerting pressure on the centre, demanding a special status for the state. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi yesterday, urging him to fulfill the promise made to Andhra at the time of bifurcation last year. Here are the details.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has opened the floodgates for special category status for states. At a time when he's made the demand a major poll plank ahead of the assembly elections, more and more states are following suit. On Tuesday, NDA allied TDP rigged up its demand for a special status for Andhra Pradesh. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital, reminding him of the promise made during bifurcation.
I want only one thing, level playing field with other states. I am hoping for the best.
Opposition parties in Andhra have escalated pressure on the ruling TDP. Congress MPs rigged up the demand in the recently concluded monsoon session of Parliament as well. The left front observed a bandh in the state on the 11th of August following self-immolation by a person. The YSR Congress, led by Jagan Mohan Reddy, has also called for a statewide bandh on the 29th of August on the issue. Political parties argue that a special category status for Andhra is a must, since the state now has an additional burden of building its own capital after Hyderabad was given to Telangana. A special status means around 90% of funds that is allocated to the states will be given as grants, which need not be paid back. Such states also enjoy concessions in excise and customs duties, income tax rates and corporate tax rates as determined by the government. Currently, 11 states enjoy the special category status. These include the hill states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, and the 8 northeastern states. The basis for granting the special status is due to their hilly terrain or considerable tribal population. But in the recent years, more and more states like Bihar, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and Rajasthan are also demanding the special category status based on their development parameters. The demand has gained momentum despite the centre ruling out the provision for according special status to any more states. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat this morning to talk about this is CL Manoj of the Economic Times. Manoj, thanks for joining me on the program. You know, as in the recent past, we've seen more and more states demanding for special status, and the latest being the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, who has met the Prime Minister yesterday asking for special status for Andhra Pradesh. You know, the question really is, what should be the consideration in deciding whether or not a state deserves to get special status or not?
You know, those conditions are very well laid out by the former Planning Commission. There are various categories like, as your reporter said, that, you know, hilly areas, but also there is about economic and infrastructure backwardness, depending on density of population, fiscal deficit, and all many other categories. But apart from those well laid out categories, what is happening today in Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, we can well describe it as the politics of package. You know, there can be many ways of justifying these demands, but these are also the problems the governments and political parties make for themselves when they make electoral promises, which may be very difficult to implement once they are in power. Now, in the case of Andhra Pradesh, when the state was bifurcated towards the end of the UPA tenure, it is true that the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh made a promise on the floor of Parliament that Andhra region would be given a special category status for compensating the country because of Telangana is being created. And that was in response to demand that time. And the BJP was also fully supporting that statement. So after the TDP, which is a BJP ally, came to power, there was no hurry on the part of the centre to implement special category status, nor was there any, you know, impatience on the part of the Chandrababu Naidu government. But last few weeks, as we all know that the opposition parties in Andhra started, you know, raking up this issue, knowing fully well that it may not be easy to implement.
Yes.
So there was a burn, there was violence, there was a case of a man immolating himself. So this has put a lot of pressure on the TDP government, and that led to the Chief Minister rushing to Delhi to show that he is second to none in demanding this.
But are the demands of both Bihar and Andhra Pradesh legitimate to get special category status?
See, there may be many grounds because Bihar, if you know, that even when BJP and the JDU were allies, and when Nitish Kumar was the Chief Minister, if you remember during the UPA government, many times Nitish Kumar had led a delegation of his then ministers, both from JDU and BJP, to meet the then Prime Minister to place their demands. But today the situation is different because there's a politics of putting one demand for a package against another demand. You know that earlier this month the Prime Minister announced a major package, financial package. It's about 1.25 lakh crore for Bihar, with an eye clearly on the coming elections. So this is a way of countering and reminding that, you know, BJP had also promised a special category status for Bihar. And the argument which Nitish Kumar has put, and rightly so, that if you are given a special category status to a state, it gets a lot of concession in terms of, you know, excise duty, customs duty cut, and which are major incentives for the industry to put in their investment factories, which according to the Chief Minister will generate a lot of employment for the youth. So he, in a way, is trying to undercut the central package announced by saying that what is actually needed is a special category status, and also reminding the BJP leadership and the leadership of the current government at the center that you people had also promised it. But I think more than the economic consideration, these are the electoral considerations that's happening in the run-up to the election.
Can we see a similar kind of package for Andhra Pradesh, or do you believe that that's not going to happen because the package was purely political, whereas it doesn't have to be political now with Andhra Pradesh?
You know, I don't think that it's an easy decision for the government. Not only for this, because NDA government is here, even for any other party ruling. Because once you start giving special category status to states, because already we have 11 such states, Northeast, Kashmir, Himachal and Uttarakhand. But they are all, you know, a case, they deserve it because of their geographical and many other considerations. But now the problem with the central government is that if they try to give the special category status to Andhra, then it will strengthen the Bihar's demand. Already there are demands from Orissa, there are demands from Rajasthan.
Yes.
And also it's quite possible that many other states who may not have nothing to qualify for that category, but the attraction in terms of, you know, getting a lot of central grants, then the
concessions. And else, yes.
So attractions for any state governments to demand. So if you start giving it, then there will be no end of, you know, demand coming from.
Indeed.
And let me also point out that one of the reasons why now it is becoming again an issue is that during the last parliament session, there was a reply to a question given by the Minister of State for Planning, said that there is no plan right now before the government to, you know, grant special category status.
Yes.
And that reply also pointed out that the 14th Finance Commission made no such recommendation of special category state anymore. So that is in a way indicating the central government's mind on the issue.
Indeed.
Which is also giving kind of, you know, a political win for the demands from Bihar, and also now Chandrababu Naidu is in a way being pushed into that because of the opposition.
Indeed. All right, CL Manoj, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for putting things into perspective for us and sharing your expertise on this particular subject. Moving on now, here's a look at the latest developments expected across the country during the course of the day in our segment, The Day Ahead. Pakistani terrorist Naveed Yaqub will make a confessional statement before the magistrate court in Jammu regarding the role of the terror outfit in carrying out strikes like the Udhampur attack. Naveed, along with his accomplice Mohammad Noman alias Momin, had carried out a terror strike on a BSF convoy on August 5th in Udhampur, killing 2 personnel. An interministerial panel headed by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will meet the representatives of 12 central trade unions to discuss their 12-point charter of demands on labour issues. The meeting is significant as it is scheduled about a week ahead of central trade unions' call for strike on September 2nd. Trade unions' charter of demands includes urgent measures to contain unemployment, strict enforcement of basic labour laws and universal social security cover for all workers. Seychelles President James Alex Michael, who is paying a 3-day visit to India, will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi today at Hyderabad House, 5 months after the two met during the latter's visit to the Indian Ocean archipelago. Michael will also be meeting Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar and Finance Minister Arun Jaitley later in the day. BJP will kick off the second leg of the Parivartan Yatra campaign in Bihar from today to highlight its vision for the state and spell out the reasons why voters should root for it. The second round of the campaign rally would tell the voters what the BJP can give to Bihar in the next 5 years. Well, it's time for a short break now, but on the other side, Rahul Gandhi to visit Jammu and Kashmir for the first time after the Congress NC government was voted out of power last year. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
A new government in New Delhi. New faces.
People are not investing because they are scared of your tax administration.
New thinking.
The auction process is a fair and good process.
You cannot have a one-size-fits-all reform policy.
For insights and perspective.
Judiciary should be more concerned about corruption within itself.
The Modi government slogan of "Achhe din aane wale hain." Soon the people's slogan will be "Hamare purane din lauta do."
The biggest show on economic policy. Watch State of the Economy.
Back, you're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the Registrar General and Census Commissioner has released the 10-year census figures on religion from 2001 and 2011. The numbers show moderate rise of 0.8% for the Muslim community. Its population has grown from 13.8 crore to 17.22 crore in these 10 years, while the Hindu population showed a decline of 0.7% at 96.63 crores during the period. The breakup of the other religious groups reads: Christians 2.78 crores, Sikhs 2.08 crores, Buddhists 0.84 crores and Jains 0.45 crores. Besides the 6 major religious communities, the distribution of the total population also includes other religions and persuasions and religion not stated. Well, the face of the Patel agitation for reservation, Hardik Patel, has called for a statewide bandh in Gujarat today to intensify the agitation for an OBC status for the community. There were several incidents of violence from many parts of the state following the brief detention of Hardik Patel. Reports of arson, stone pelting and vandalism were reported. Following the violence, curfew was imposed in 3 towns of North Gujarat and some areas of Surat. Paramilitary forces like State Reserve Police Force, BSF and Rapid Action Force have been deployed in Ahmedabad and Mehsana. Hardik Patel, who is leading the agitation, has appealed to maintain peace. The community has now said that their strike will continue till the State Chief Minister considers their demand for intervention for reservation under the OBC category. Let's take you through the demands put forth by the Patels and the government's reaction now.
Thousands of people from the Patel community gathered in Ahmedabad on Tuesday, demanding reservations under the OBC quota. Considered a powerful community, the Patels account for about 12% of the population in Gujarat. But they want reservations, saying it should be on the basis of class, not caste.
हम अभी उपवास पर बैठे जब तक गुजरात के सीएम यहाँ आकर हमारे आवेदन पत्र ना स्वीकार ले और हमारी मांगे पूरी ना के तब तक हम यहाँ पर बैठेंगे उपवास पर। और खास तौर पर इस प्रकार जो आज रैली हुई है, शांतिपूर्ण रैली हुई है, फिर भी पुलिस ने हमारे कार्यकर्ता पर लाठीचार्ज किया है। अगर बाद में कुछ गुजरात में परिस्थिति बिगड़ेगी उसकी जिम्मेदारी गवर्नमेंट की रहेगी।
ये सब अपनी इनकम के आधार पर होना चाहिए। जो रिजर्वेशन होता है वो कास्ट के ऊपर आधारित नहीं होना चाहिए। मैं एक पाटीदार में जन्मा हूँ, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि मैं बहुत अमीर हूँ। मतलब ये रिजर्वेशन नहीं होना चाहिए कास्ट के आधार पर।
Patels have been a dominant community in the state for decades. Even political parties are aware of their clout. The protesters have now threatened the ruling BJP, saying the community is powerful enough to uproot any political party from the state.
1985 में पंजे को उखाड़ कर फेंका था, आज तक नहीं आया वो। 2017 आ रहा है, कादर में किच्चर नहीं कभी करेगा, कमल कभी उगेगा भी नहीं। अगर इन लोगों के हित की बात हुई तो फिर से उगाएगा वही कमल शानदार से आन से।
Gujarat Chief Minister Anandiben Patel had earlier rejected the Patels' demand to be included in the OBC category, citing Supreme Court guidelines. She, however, did say that her government was open to negotiations. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
While the Patel agitation gains momentum in Gujarat, in Delhi, the government is facing protests by ex-servicemen demanding the implementation of one rank, one pension. One veteran who was on fast unto death was hospitalized on Tuesday as 2 more joined the protest that's underway at Jantar Mantar. The fast unto death entered its 9th day yesterday, and the protest demanding the government to implement the scheme has been on for over 70 days. There is also speculation that the announcement of the scheme could come this week. However, a parallel protest has now begun, with a group of retired Jawans and other ranks accusing the main group leading the OROP protest of being an officers' group. Well, the government has said that it is making all possible efforts to make the country self-reliant in weapons production. In a reply to a question in the Rajya Sabha, the Defence Minister has said that import dependence on defence needs is a pressing concern, and the government is making efforts to self-produce its defence requirements. Here's more.
In 2011, India replaced China as the world's leading importer of weapons. Since then, the government is pursuing a two-pronged strategy to ensure self-reliance in defense production. On the one hand, it is cutting down imports, and on the other, it is trying to step up in-house production.
The people will come from outside and they will make defense production here, and India, the country, we will buy from them. At the same time, the policy also speaks, if it will come true also, that small and medium industries and will be given some scope. But what is that scope? To what scope it will come? This is a big question.
Replying to a question in the Rajya Sabha during the monsoon session, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar listed the government's initiatives to enhance defence production, starting with efforts to liberalise the FDI policy by hiking FDI cap from 26% to 49%, encouraging indigenization of defence production by easing the industrial licensing policy, simplifying export regulations, creating a level playing field with respect of customs and excise duties between the private sector and public sector, and lastly, an preference to buy and make Indian. Another vital component of the government's measures is its focus on technology transfers for equipment imports.
The progress will depend on how soon, how fast such contract has signed by the Government of India. And of course, there are other factors like the ecosystem and, FDI and, things like this, which will have an impact on the willingness of the foreign OEMs to transfer the technology. The IPR issue is important, whether it's a real problem or it's a matter of perception. But the fact remains that, there is an issue there and it's got to be fixed.
With preference for products made locally and a gradual de-escalation of imports, experts feel the private sector's role will increase significantly. Palak Sharma's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi will begin his two-day tour of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh region from today. The aim of his visit is to highlight what the Congress says is the failure of the PDP-BJP government in the state. Rahul Gandhi is scheduled to visit the line of control in the Poonch district to meet villagers affected by Pakistani shelling. He is also expected to address a rally. During his visit to the state, Rahul will be holding interactions with Congress workers, defence personnel demanding OROP, civil society members, saffron farmers affected by unseasonal rains and flood-affected families, as well as panchayat and trade representatives. This will be Gandhi's first visit to the state after the assembly elections last year, when the Congress and Farooq Abdullah-led National Conference was voted out of power. Well, the 29-hour countdown for the launch of India's latest communication satellite, GSAT-6, will begin today at the spaceport of Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. The countdown will begin at 11:52 a.m. The launch of geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle D6 carrying GSAT-6 is scheduled at 4:52 p.m. on the 27th of August from Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota. GSAT-6 is the 25th geostationary communication satellite of India built by ISRO and 12th in the GSAT series. GSAT-6 will provide communication through 5 spot beams in S-band and a national beam in C-band for strategic users. The satellite has a liftoff mass of 2,107 kilograms and the dry mass of the satellite is 985 kilograms. The advanced feature of GSAT-6 satellite is its S-band unfurlable antenna of 6-meter diameter. This is the largest satellite antenna realized by ISRO. The mission life of the satellite is for 9 years. Moving on to some sports news now, Lalita Shivaji Babar will compete in the finals of the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase at the World Championship in Beijing today. Reigning Asian champion Babar clocked 9 minutes 27.86 seconds to be at the 4th spot in the second heat. She qualified for the final round as one of the 6 fastest timers outside 3 top finishers in each of the 3 heats who got automatic qualification spots. Babar also beat her own record set earlier. Babar is the first Indian to enter the 3,000-meter steeplechase final. It's time now for the other sports news in our sports beat. Five-time world champion Viswanathan Anand suffered his second defeat in as many games in the Sinkfield Cup chess tournament in the United States. Anand lost to Alexander Grishuk of Russia in the second round. After a loss against Hikaru Nakamura of the host nation in the opening round, Anand was in for another shock as his opponent was better prepared for his first victory against the Indian ace in classical chess. Spaniard Alejandro Valverde outsprinted Slovakia's Peter Sagan to win the fourth stage of the Tour of Spain. Valverde denied a second straight triumph to Sagan and narrowed the gap to leader Esteban Chavez. Movistar rider Valverde moved up to fourth overall, 25 seconds behind Colombian Chavez, by claiming victory on the 209.6-kilometer stretch over Verde de la Frontera. Colombian winger Juan Cuadrado joined Italian champions Juventus on a season-long loan from Chelsea. Cuadrado has previous experience in Serie A, having played for Fiorentina, Lecce and Udinese. Cuadrado joined Chelsea from Fiorentina in February this year on a 4.5-year deal for an estimated £23.3 million. His move follows the arrival at Stamford Bridge last Thursday of Spain winger Pedro from Barcelona. That's it on this bulletin. Have a nice day.